Sure, I will do honestly.
Johan, please.
Sorry, Mr. President, if you had to wind all of those tapes properly, you will see I'm the biggest target of that rabble-rouser. Number one for over 10 years, Mr. Malema. In fact, the first time I met him, he was in the youth league with that gentleman. And look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board. Ernie's right now building a house in George. I'm building 3 cottages for my grandchildren on a farm outside Graaff-Reinet. I often go to bed without locking the door. And we have a serious problem with illegal aliens who stream across the border. And if you really look at our statistics, a lot of these murders, firstly it's unemployment and illegal aliens. And then I met Vice President Vance many years ago at Charlie Rose show. My wife loved the book. And she reminded me this morning that you emphasized the devastation that occurs when big companies leave towns and cities, and there's a culture of dependency that develops. And I remember you discussing it. Now that's our problem. If we don't get our economy to grow, the culture of dependency and the lawlessness will increase. I've been against apartheid all my life, and I'm their number 1 target. Please just Google my name and Malema. You'll see it, sir.
Yeah.
He marched on the
But
farm.
the crime is bad.
The crime is terrible, sir, but Mr. Steenhuisen won't admit to it, but he runs the Western Cape, where I live. And the biggest murder rate is in the Cape Flats. Gangs. We've got gang warfare. Like your M33, whatever these guys. We've got equivalents there. But we need your help, sir. And we need Elon technology.
Well, one of the real areas of support is really in investments. We've got to grow our economy, because through growing the economy, we're then able to create more jobs. Because crime really thrives where there is inequality and unemployment. And that is one of the reasons that has brought us here, to improve our investment relations, our trade relations, so that we can preserve the number of jobs that your companies have created in South Africa. By virtue of what we export to you, we are able to create up to 500,000 jobs in the auto industry, in the agricultural industry, and a number of other industries, mining, where we export things to you.
Pages and South Africans, we see here Johan Rupert actually calling out John Steenhuisen with the Democratic Alliance, saying that you run the Western Cape, especially knowing just how this party continues to actually always say that they run the best run city, the well-run city in the country, which is also experiencing a large rate of killings, where we see a lot of the kids in the Cape Flats and so forth actually engaging in gun violence for many, many, many years. And they've never actually did their best to stop this. And in all matters of fact is that they are being exposed. And you imagine right now you see a whole Johan Rupert say that you wouldn't like to admit this, but all those killings happening in the Cape Flats and those areas, and not only those, even in the Gauteng area, those things happen. But in this specific, John Steenhuisen was targeted. But I would have really liked for him to answer for himself, but also that was also not necessary in this context, because this was more of an international trip where South Africans really needed to stand together. And there's also one that I follow up on Ramaphosa actually cutting Steenhuisen, which I wasn't so happy about, because I believe Steenhuisen answered well. But also we still have to agree that we have a crime problem in this country and not a white genocide, because we live with white people. Myself, in fact, 7 of my neighbors are white Afrikaner. So what is this that they're talking about? We don't target nobody. We live in harmony with everybody in this country. But the fact that those who do not want to actually begin to talk about transformation are the ones who are actually continuing to actually fight this issue. So we're going to agree, patriots, South Africans, that it was actually good that Steenhuisen was called out, because as much as that is the reason, we always have to remember that we are at war. Patriotic Alliance is going to local elections next year, 2026, and we must play this clip. This is for us to say that what have they done in the last 15, now 16 years? What have they done? The Western Cape. So we're also going to listen to him as well as he explains his agricultural factor, and listen to what he says. But this is not in response, because he didn't respond to the Rupert issue, but in the all context, he was necessary to actually give back to some of these, because we are actually in the fight for all South Africans. This is our country, and we have to fight together in this, especially for those who are working in those other areas. All politics, South African local politics aside, but in all honesty, that is exactly what we need to be dealing with. So, South Africans, what we are actually faced with is a crime problem. And I'm glad it was clarified. And we continue to protect it against all odds, no matter what they say. We don't care. We just do not care. But because we kind of need America and their trade, that is why our president is seen going there to beg. And because we're desperate, we just have to let go. But that is not what we should be, South Africans. I was really not happy about all this whole interaction. Actually infuriated me to see our president go back there. But what also impressed me was his calmness in the face of heat. He did well for himself, President Ramaphosa.
Brian, go.
If I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
You know, I'd like my Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from an opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you've just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural savings problem in South Africa. I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues at police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to start making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime. And it affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft. It has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers. I also want to just say this, that the two individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Umkhonto we Sizwe under Mr. Zuma and the Economic Freedom Fighters under Mr. Malema. Now the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have those people sitting in the union buildings making decisions. And that is why after 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our Parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world so that we can strengthen our hand, grow our economy, and shut the door forever on that rabble getting through the doors of the union buildings, because then South Africa's future would be...
So you denounced that type of language in the video that you saw?
Oh yes, we've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation. And if we had a real news or real press or media, we don't have that because they won't talk about this because they're all guys like that idiot. But if we had a real press, it would be exposed. And you know, the beauty of exposing it is it's like a cleansing action. When it gets exposed, it'll get fixed. That's when it'll get fixed. But people don't talk about it. And I'll tell you who's talking about the thousands of people that are fleeing South Africa right now.
Nothing. Sure, I would do all my